All right, that's where we want to be. So I didn't get to this verse on Sunday. Just really quickly want to go through it. The importance that we can't get into all the background, the way Paul was addressing the Corinthians about marriage and the things going on in Corinth and that society at that time. If you remember, he's telling those that are single, it'd be better for you to remain single at this time. If you're married, of course, stay married. And this is a little condensed version of part of the message he was giving to them. And he states, I would like you to be free from concern. An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs, how he can please the Lord. But a married man is concerned about the affairs of the world, how he can please his wife. And his interests are divided. And then he goes on and talks the same language about unmarried women. And then concludes there, a married woman is concerned about the affairs of the world, how she can please her husband. So initially you might read this and be like, well, he's saying, hey, marriage is taken away from your service to the Lord. And I guess you can look at that. What he's talking about here is that you'll be divided, but it also is expressing the importance of pleasing each other. The importance of what he's talking about here of men pleasing their wives and women pleasing their husbands. And how that is, the way I look at it, is ranked right below serving the Lord, as he's talking about here. The importance of both. And especially in this climate, and it extends to us, 2,000 years later, the importance of taking care of each other, taking care of each other's needs, and how important that is in the way he talks about pleasing each other. So I wanted to get that real quick, and then we're going to be moving on tonight, talking about his needs. And again, the source is from his needs, her needs, the top 5 that were shown from huge nationwide surveys, and we'll get to that soon. But the interesting thing as we're talking about his needs and her needs is that you're going to see, and as we talk about love languages, which we're going to get to, I promise. And I know you guys did that last week, did the homework with the love languages, but talking about all of that as how complementary they are, how man's needs and women's needs are different, but they complement each other. And we've talked about this in previous classes, and that's the beauty of creation, how God took from man and made made woman, and made it, it's a complementary thing in so many different ways. So keep that in the back of your head as we're talking about his needs tonight, and as we were talking about her needs on Sunday, how they complement each other. So looking at the top 5, as we see here, sexual fulfillment, recreational companionship, an attractive spouse, domestic support, and admiration. So that's what we're going to talk about here for a little bit. And again, I ask you all, when we're talking, as we talked about on Sunday, you guys did a great job talking about practical ideas, past experiences, things like that, to be able to help each other as we're navigating through this, talking about understanding each other's needs. So the first one there, talking about sexual fulfillment. I put down here some of the more popular verses. Right off the bat, again talking about Genesis, creation, and talking about how the two will become one flesh, men and women being united, one flesh, and not that that's just only in a sexual, but it's one of the main things. And then as a relationship, they're continuing to becoming united as one Proverbs speaks of this, about, Solomon giving wisdom advice to his sons about, this language here in Proverbs 5, enjoying the wife of your youth, drinking from your own cistern, or some of the ways that he is giving him advice there. The whole book of Song of Solomon, is one big love story, and talking about how, the two enjoying each other, and we're talking about, sexual fulfillment. And in Hebrews 13:4, let me read that real quick. It says, marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. So again, speaking of the importance of this, as the author of Hebrews puts it, of the marriage bed, how it is a thing to be honored, the way that God has created that and instituted that. And I apologize, the rush because of the delayed and everything, so I don't want to skip over anything, but please interrupt me, make some comments again. This is the message to the women. Sunday was the message to the guys. Now it's to the gals here. So please, anything you want to say or questions or whatever. And I had here, this was a quote from, I think I had some quotes from this on Sunday. A book called Marriage, A Reflection of God's Image. The author here says, a satisfying sex life is built on a foundation of commitment, companionship, passion, and spiritual intimacy. So again, there's a lot that goes into this. It's not, it's not just about that sexual fulfillment. I really like what this author says here, is there's a foundation to that these things, and again, when you go back to Genesis 2, talking about the two shall become one, I do feel like the basis of that is the sexual relationship between a husband and a wife, but it continues, it builds on this companionship, commitment, spiritual intimacy. Any thoughts on this or anything else before we move on? All right. Feel free to, we'll come back, skip around on these. Anything that comes to mind, please interrupt me. So then talking about recreational companionship, the number 2 one there. Does this one surprise anyone, or do any of these surprise you, or anything you feel like's been left out? Again, because these aren't the only needs of guys, of husbands. These were the top 5. So I thought this one was interesting, recreational companionship. Do anybody else think it's interesting? Just me?
I thought it kind of was.
Yeah.
A lot of times, at least, my mindset, when you're going for a run, or when you're going to go on a hiking trip, or if you're going to play a sport, or just really anything that involves just being active, you always kind of in the back of your head picture the man going with his buddies.
Yeah.
Or going, that's kind of what I have envisioned before. And I really haven't thought too much about that particular one, but that one is the one that stands out to me.
Yeah.
I think it really goes back to quality time, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one thing that Bo and I always like to do, is go for walks.
Sure.
and things like that, so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of too. When you talk about a love language of quality time, it doesn't have to be, Natalie learning how to play golf. We did try that one time. It was fun, and that was it. But there's just certain things, you're like, no, it's okay, But yeah, taking walks, just going to the park or playing games, at your house, learning how to play card games and things like that. That what it's all about, again, is quality time, is spending that time together. Because I know we can all think, unfortunately, we can think of marriages and relationships that as time goes on, you see two people drifting apart. And a lot of times it's because they might just always be doing separate things. They don't have any similar interests as the years go on. And that's obviously really, really dangerous. And, I guess it's a famous quote. It was in one of the books I was reading, and I've heard it before, but the couple that plays together stays together, right? Maybe some of y'all heard that too. But it's true, the more things that you can do together, the more time you can spend together, the more likely you'll stay together over the years. Yes, sir.
Well, and that doesn't necessarily have to be athletic endeavors, or that type. When I used to work on the road quite a bit, there were times I would be gone sometimes 2, 3, 4 nights a week. And what became Jane and mine's practice was on Saturday morning, we went out to breakfast. That was our reconnect time.
Yeah.
We would talk on the phone during the week. We always got to talk to each other. Usually got to talk to each other every evening. That didn't always work out. But on Saturday morning, we went out to breakfast. And that was an opportunity for us to touch base about how our week had gone, what we've been into, and just across the table.
Right.
Make that connection again and be involved with each other that way. And that falls into that recreational companionship. It's that extra bit of time that you spend, just giving someone your attention.
Right.
This is something really, really small, but it relates. There have been times in our marriage where we've been just super, super busy with taking classes online, or studying for exams. Earlier in our marriage, and even here recently, we've been really busy with needing to do some things like that for work. And what we've tried to do is, at least when we're both working on those things, we try to at least be in the same room as one another. Like we'll sit at the dining room table together. She's working on something, I'm working on something, but we're at least together in the same room. If we can't have couch time, or if we can't talk, we at least try to be around each other. That helps.
Very good.
I think it's gonna involve some give and take. It might not be that it's your favorite activity,
Right.
but you know that he enjoys it, or you know that she enjoys it.
That's so true. I mean, I want to call on some of y'all to give some good examples of that. Natalie has been to some football games, and I appreciate her for doing that.
No, I really like that.
Now you like it.
Yeah,
See,
I like
she's
that.
grown.
I've ridden in the golf cart while you played golf, so
Yeah.
that's supporting.
And that's fun. That's been a lot of fun. But I've gone to see Phantom of the Opera. I've seen Les Mis a lot. Those are, her favorite things, and I've grown to appreciate them as time has gone on. But, they are, those are the things that interest her that are what she likes to do. So I know you guys, I had to tell on us, you know. Yeah, Richard.
I'll help you on that as well. As an encouragement for those that are maybe haven't made the mistake that I made 18 years ago, when Charity and I were first married, we went out to play tennis. And I had played some tennis, and Charity hadn't played very much, and we were playing. And tennis, you got to be moving a lot. And so Charity was a very athletic person and ran track and things like that. But she was just being a little lazy, moving her feet around. So I said, hey, you know, you're being a little lazy. That was a poor choice. At the time, it didn't seem poor, but as I said it, it seemed poor. Anyway, so so that, you know, I think it took about 15 years, and we've played some pickleball since then, but in the last couple of years. But it took a while for her to go past that. But so anyway, so you know, as you know, your spouse attempts to do those kinds of things, as a husband, to be careful to not, if they're not playing like your buddies, if they're not playing golf, as well as someone else's, to not be critical of them, because that was a poor choice on our behalf that took some years to heal.
Yeah. So it's a lot to do with balancing your time. This class isn't about that, but it's an important thing, that you're not always off just doing stuff with buddies or by yourself. It's a balance of that time and looking out for the interest of each other and trying to, you know, do your best to, you know, do some things that might be outside of your comfort zone. But that's what we're, you know, called to do, and that's speaking each other's love language. So, any other funny stories? Last chance here. But,
Piggybacking on Rich.
yeah.
I made that mistake multiple times. Criticism always worked as a motivating factor for myself. And I would kind of do the same to Corey, which would just shut her down. I think when learning the differences became more of a time to build up and be patient versus call out.
Yeah. Very smart. Be patient. Less criticism. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Okay, so the last three here.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
Can I go back to sexual fulfillment?
Sure.
You know, one of the reasons, you know, clearly it's a very important topic that
Yeah.
God spent a lot of time on. It's, you know, one of the top things here, but it's a difficult thing for us to talk about, right? So you ask the question, you know, nobody's got any
That's fine.
anecdotal stories, but, you know, understandably.
Right.
But one of the things that I've found to be really beneficial is, in that regard, and a lot of other things besides that, is Focus on the Family has a podcast that is very good, and it discussed a lot of different topics, such as raising children and dealing with challenges and a variety of things. But one is that, you know, probably 3 or 4 times a month they have something on biblical sexuality and sexual fulfillment and things like that. And then from that, usually it's a book that they've got like an author on that is talking about it. And so one of the books that they had recently was called Married Sex, by a couple therapists that wrote the book. And great book, great podcast. And you know, if I imagine that there's some in this room that are thinking, I'd like to learn a little bit more about this than what Song of Solomon has, or what, you know,
Sure.
other things. And so that's a great source that I found over the years to be really beneficial. So, you know, the Focus on the Family podcast, they're 30 minutes every day, and about 3 or 4 times a month there's one on that, and there's a book. And that's one, and it's really good. One of the things in that book that they talk about is, it's a difficult topic to discuss in a small group or in a Bible class setting. And so one of the things they talk about is that, you know, and it's not the type of thing you want to go to Google and do a Google search for, and you know what might come up.
Right.
So they just talk about that and say, you know, this is a great format for that, is where you have psychologists and psychiatrists and people that have met with couples and, you know, and studied that for years, and then write a book about it, and then to be able to review it, read it, discuss it with your spouse in a private setting is a really great format for it. So just something that I thought I would encourage as a place to get some good resources from.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. You know, and jumping over to the love languages, because we're going to have to mix them together. I'm going to wait till the very end of class, but we're probably going to run out of time. But I'm not going to ask for show of hands from the guys, but I know that, you know, the way it's put here with the love languages, you know, physical touch is the way that Gary Chapman puts it, is probably 1 or 2 for most of the guys in here. So it's very, very important, and it's important to have those discussions as couples, you know, newlyweds all the way, you know, through our marriages. But if you took the quiz, you know, hope you did, and if you didn't, there's still some copies left. There's just some really good questions on here. What is more meaningful to me when it comes to things like this? And again, it's good to have that open dialogue, that you know each other's love language. That way we can, facilitate to each other's needs, speak that language in whatever way possible. And I've got some more slides that have some good recommendations on that that we'll get to here in a little bit. So going back to the top 5 here, an attractive spouse. So that, it's important. That's what attracts us to each other. That's what is the initial attraction, right? And then that's what we build on. It's, again, not just about looks, but it is important. And then inside is what we're striving for, the inside beauty that goes along with outside beauty. But anyway, I'm curious as to what you all think about this. Again, sometimes we're reluctant to talk about these things in group settings. Yeah.
I was thinking about it, kind of what you said, that attractive spouse can kind of encompass all the other 4 in it. And, it's like you said, it's not just the physical beauty, but it's also, you can be attracted to someone because of the things you do together and the support that you get from that person and the admiration that you get from that person. And it can, I feel like that one is kind of right where it needs to be at number 3. It's like that doesn't need to be the most important thing, but it is important, and it can encompass, all the other ones in it.
Exactly. Very good point. Yes.
I think as Christians, it is something that is sometimes like overlooked in dating and then like in marriage, because we're very much focused on, okay, what does God say about this? Like, look at the inside of the man or woman, look at the heart, what attributes, like their character, what they display, but also going back to what you said about the other 3 or 4, God did make us a specific way, and so there's nothing wrong about like being attracted or being infatuated with that other person.
Very true. Very good. I pulled up from Proverbs 31, and this kind of ties in to bringing some other ones together here, kind of what Nathan was talking about. It says that she makes covering for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. So again, it's not just about her physical appearance. That is in here, but it's also talking about her strength, her dignity, her preparedness for the future, which are all attractive things that guys should be looking for, should be attracted to. That's basically the whole package, the whole picture, however you want to put it. So I thought that this is interesting, looking at the worthy woman of Proverbs 31. Again encompasses more than just outward beauty, even though that is a very important part of it. Any other thoughts on this one?
Randy, I think a part of it is like her confidence in who she is, I think even like you see in movies maybe more so, and I guess in real life too, but you have people who have a male that has an affair with someone that they work with, but that person's not prettier in physical attraction maybe than their spouse, but they're always dressed up. They're always they're maybe more confident in their behavior. They're more assertive to that man, and so therefore that's how that affair often turns when their wife at home is or not is prettier from those standards. And so I think a part of that is like even that passage right there, clothed in fine linen and purple, dressed not in sweats, dressed, nice or whatever, and things like that, and clothed with strength and dignity, the confidence that they. So I think those things are a big part of that attractive. That's much less the natural physical.
Yeah.
What's been given.
All right, moving on. I hate to rush through this, but trying to get through everything tonight. Domestic support, so support on the home front. And again, here's a good verse from Proverbs 31. She watches over the affairs of the household and does not eat the bread of idleness. So again, confidence, Richard was talking about, confident in how she's taking care of things, that duty, that very important duty of taking care of the affairs of the house. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, she can't do it all by herself,
Mm-hmm.
and there must be a reason why many of the daughters that we read about in the scripture had maidens and had people to help, other women to help take care of the other needs, because no one person can do it all.
That's a good point.
And a lot of it, in my opinion, depends on what the goals are in the household, depending on who's in the household and when. It will be a whole lot different when you have children and adults who are leaving than when it's just yourself and your spouse and whatever goals are needed there.
Yes.
I'm not married, so I can't really speak for married people. But one thing I know that I need a lot is someone who I can effectively communicate with, and not somebody where if you say something they over exaggerate it or blow it up. But I'm more of a to the point with facts kind of person. So to effectively communicate with me, it helps if you're to the point with facts instead of just this is how I'm feeling. And I know a lot of times, I don't know how to word this correctly, sometimes women use I'm feeling this, and we have to learn to communicate that way. But for me to effectively communicate, I need facts and to the point. And so I guess just learning to communicate. I know it's not in the top 5, but
No, that is.
I think it's something that's important that you have to be able to do.
Communication is very, very important. And guys and girls have different ways of communicating, just what you're talking about. So learning how to speak, not just verbally, but in some of these actions, part of the love languages, are very important to meet those expectations, those needs that each one of us does need. Yes, sir.
Remember, we have 2 classes later on communication.
Good. Make sure you're here. Everybody will be here. No, those are great. Those be very important classes. All right, looking at admiration. Very important. Whether just the guys working, you're both working. Admiration is a two-way street, but it shows up on the guy's top 5 needs here. We want to hear good job, thank you, or things like that. Those type of things, whether it's appreciation or respect. And again, to me, it goes back to communication, and it goes back to the power of the tongue. The Bible speaks a lot about the power of the tongue and what it can do. A lot of times it's talking about what it can do really bad. We've got to try to stay away from that and be on the positive side. But I thought about that here too. I've written down Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So what you can do to build up your spouse, just with simple words of appreciation and admiration, those type of things is extremely important.
Randy, I
Yes.
think too, like you mentioned, the kind of the negative side of things. I think some women have a bad habit of getting gossipy with their girlfriends or with their mom and start telling them, oh, I can't believe he did this again, and that sort of thing. And I heard some advice early in my marriage from some wise women, who some of which I think are in this room, about don't say something about your husband to someone else that if it got back around to him, he would feel discouraged or embarrassed or put down or disrespected, and so that includes those kind of things. And maybe you just feel like you're just venting, but you're shaping the way other people view your husband. And I think that's important for us. We have a power in our tongues in what we speak about our husbands. And I think that ties into that admiration and showing him respect and appreciation for who he is as a person, to not go airing dirty laundry just because I'm, feeling frustrated about it in the moment.
That's a great point. Yes.
It's never, words of affirmation or admiration have never been like a big thing for me until I started dating Anna, and I always considered myself kind of a loner that I never really needed anybody else's admiration. But as time has gone on, like a day after a hard work day, come back and hear some just kind words of like admiration, or just something that makes me feel proud of what I've done and what I'm doing and trying to do, just really changes my mindset, and it's become one of my bigger love languages.
I would think a lot of guys here, including myself, fit in the same categories. Yes, Terry.
I think if you look at all of these needs that he has with the umbrella of, I'm trying to redeem him. I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure my spouse gets to heaven. Well, if that means, ladies, you're never that tired. Okay, you take care of number one. Number two, well, I might not love football, or I might not love hunting. I'll find a way to make that happen. To be attractive, you know what? Those girls at work, they do look pretty all the time because they put their lipstick on it before they got out of the car. You need to put on something other than just sweatpants every once in a great while, because he gets to look at them all day long. My domestic responsibilities. If I'm trying to redeem him when he's worked all day and he's had a yucky day, and he walks in and the house is trashed, and I'm just worn out, and I'm throwing kids at him when he hits the door, he's not going to feel very redeemed. He's not going to feel very encouraging. And admiration, you know what? I need to tell him, hey, I'm on this journey with you, just randomly. Thank you for helping me father these children. I've messed up today.
Perfect. It's a perfect recap. Tyler, you can't beat that.
I know. I'm also in the non-married category, so that's probably.
Okay.
I was thinking back to the third one real quick and kind of piggyback off of what Ashton said, but this is just from my experience down at Florida College. I've kind of seen this is like, when it comes to attractiveness, we have to find the balance between physical and internal attractiveness, because some people sacrifice one for the other, because big trend with guys my age, we're like, man, that girl's really pretty, and I'm only going to focus on that. I don't really care what she does. I don't really care who she is as a person. It doesn't matter because she's really pretty. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, I really like this about her. She's really driven. She's got all these internal qualities, but I really don't find her that physically attractive, but maybe it'll come along later. And sometimes it does. Like, I've seen friends that have done both. Like, they weren't really physically attracted at first, or maybe they weren't internally attracted, but it came together. But you can't sacrifice one for the other, because then it'll, when you get in marriage, it'll cause disconnect between whether it's, not appreciating her enough for what, she does, or it comes to a physical disconnect, which could lead to, sexual fulfillment issues because you're not really attracted to her as much as you thought you were. So you have to find the balance and truly know that you're attracted to her, yes, physically, but also internally. So.
Good. Very good. Yes.
On behalf of every man in the room, I just want to say thank you for presenting this information. I mean, that is kind of tongue in cheek there. You're doing a great job. But I'll just also add the last two classes have been really good. As a spouse, sometimes it's easy to become selfish and say, well, they don't deserve that. You know, they're not the way that they should be, so I shouldn't, why should, you know what I mean? Like, I'll let them do it first. I'll let them change first. But the things on the screen tonight and in the last class, this is how you help your spouse become the person that you really want them to become. And so if in your relationship you wish things were different, understanding what's on the screen, and that's not an exclusive list by far, but this is how you start to help them to become the person that you want them to become, so that your relationship can be better and can improve.
Right.
And whether you start on tonight's material or the other night's material, it starts with you.
Right. And they complement each other, and that's the beauty of looking out for somebody else's needs. And what we're talking about, you know, scriptures talk about putting others in front of yourself, and who's more important but your spouse, you know, here on earth. So that's what it's all based off of. So getting into the 5 love languages, those that you took the quiz, please discuss with, if you're married, with your spouses, and work on those love languages, or if you're engaged and getting prepared. I think it's a great tool to be able to use. Again, I think most guys, physical touch. What are most women? Shout it out, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Affirmation's a big one. They're all big. I mean, everybody's different. You know, myself, I don't care about gift giving. You know, it's just, I like this because, again, you can speak to each other through these love languages. And the gift giving can be so important to so many people. Yes?
One of the best things that my husband pointed out when we were engaged in like figuring out each other's love languages is really pinpointing like what's gonna hurt you the most. Like how can your partner hurt you the most, and then like flip it to the other side, and like that's how they can love you the most.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, mine's quality time, so like if I were ever to be ignored, that's just like a no-go.
Very good. Good advice there. This chart here, well, this is just the 2 needs put side by side. This is, you might not be able to read that well, but some ways of how to communicate love languages, and you all can just Google search the 5 love languages and you get a lot of good things that come up. Actions to take and then things to avoid, as you're talking about, you know, things that you can just make your mind up that you're gonna stay away from. That way, not to go against your spouse's love language. So, any other thoughts on the love languages? I hate to rush through that. Yeah, Richard?
One thing, because we've done this, I've done this for a lot of years with Growing Up Kids God's Way, and so, but one thing I think is important to know is that it can change over time. Charities has changed over time as we've done the tests over time, and things have changed. And as I've read other books and things on this, another thing that's interesting is sometimes people, like, sometimes physical touch may be low for someone because they were abused or they had difficult situations. And so there's history that impacts those things. And it's important to, like, even if your wife or your spouse doesn't say that's a high one for them, you might find that pouring into that, it may rise in value because they realize, oh, I actually do like gift giving, just no one ever gave me a gift until you. And so it's just now. So it's interesting to kind of work on all of them.
Very good. So VBS is Sunday.
Randy,
We're not gonna be meeting.
we won't meet the next 2 class periods.
Right.
And I slipped up and don't have a sheet out for, a week from Sunday, the 12th, will be our next class, and it's on love. I may try to have something available during the week for people.
Okay. Thank you
Sorry
all.
about that.
Thank you.